meeting for August 2020 opened at 4:30. I'd like to welcome our elected members, our executive team, members of council, and also those in the gallery. Welcome. And for those that are listening on to our live stream, welcome to the ordinary meeting of council. Members, our executive team, members.
Sorry, guys.
Okay, good to go. So we'll move on to our first item on the agenda, which is the acknowledgement of country. And I would like to acknowledge the Kamilaroi people as the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, and also pay my respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal community members who may be present or listening to our ordinary meeting of council. Now, can I please ask for the next item on the agenda, prayer, for us all to stand. Eternal God, our loving Father, we come to Thee this day in the name of Jesus Christ, who is the lover of our souls and the Saviour of all mankind. May we feel His love and respond to it. May His Spirit shine in lives that are darkened by worry, doubt, or fear. Strengthen and guide those who are trying to do what is right. Make it plain to them. Make us more mindful of the needs of our fellow men and less absorbed in selfish concerns, that Christ may approve and bless what we do here this day. We ask these blessings in His name. Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. The next item is bereavements. And friends, we mourn the loss of those members in our community between the 16th of July and the 12th of August. We mourn the loss of Alan Gordon Hall, Wayne John Baldwin, Elsie May Gardner, Ronald Joseph Griffin, Henry Holcomb Constable, Lorraine May Orchard, Philippa Myra Baker, and Miriam Rose Hall. Councillors and those in the room, if I could please, or friends in the gallery, please ask you again to stand for a minute of silence as we pay respects to the deceased and extend our condolences to the friends and family of the deceased. Thank you. Please be seated. Now move on to our next item on the agenda, and that is confirmation of the minutes of the previous meeting, which is the ordinary meeting of July that was held on the 15th of July. And I now request the elected member who was present. Sorry, I've skipped item 4, which is present. Apologies. We do have a request for leave of absence from Councillor Swain. All other executive and elected members are present. So I'll now call for a mover. Thank you, Councillor Fuller moved that motion and seconded by Councillor Moses. I put the motion all in favour. Against. That motion carried. Now we'll move on to item 5, which is confirmation of the previous minutes for the ordinary meeting held on the 15th of July. For elected member to move, that'd be true and correct. Thank you, Councillor Hook. Seconded by Councillor Campbell. Councillor Hook, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Elected member would like to speak against the motion, ask a question. Councillor Campbell is the seconder. Do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Be the case, then I'll put the motion on in favour. Against? Declare that motion carried. Our next item is declarations of interest. I have 4 registered. Firstly, I have one myself relating to item 11.4, which is the Business Partner Program Round 1, 2020 to 21. It's a significant non-pecuniary, as I'm related to one of the successful applicants. I will be leaving the room. Next, we have one from Councillor Hasler relating to item 17.1, the enclosure report, the Dorothy McKellar Memorial Society. It's a less than significant non-pecuniary. He is currently the Secretary of the Dorothy McKellar Memorial Society, and will be leaving the room for the discussion. Next, we have Councillor Moses, also item 11.4, Business Partner Program Round 1. It's a pecuniary interest, as she does work for the Royal Hotel in Tenbar Springs. Councillor Moses will be leaving the room for the debate and discussion and therefore determination. I'll now call for any further declarations of interest in relation to the business paper. No further declarations. We'll move on to our next item, which is community presentations. And we are fortunate that we have one this evening, and that is from a speaker will be Shelley Urquhart, and she'll be representing the Dorothy McKellar Memorial Society in relation to item 17.1. I'll now ask Ms. Urquhart to come forward to the microphone. It's not working. That was a good point. It's not working. So councillors, Mrs. Urquhart will have 5 minutes, or may take a little less, to address us in relation to that item, and then there'll be an opportunity if you have any questions that you're able to ask. Mrs. Urquhart's also asked Councillor Hasler, who is the Secretary, to also be available should she not be able to answer some of the questions, and she may refer them to Councillor Hasler. So, Mrs. Urquhart.
Right. Firstly, I'd like to apologise on behalf of our President, Philippa Murray, who was called away on business, and I speak in my capacity as Vice President of the Dorothy McKellar Memorial Society. And I would like to thank Council for the opportunity to speak before your meeting. We've met with the Mayor and members of his executive to discuss your concerns arising from your last meeting, and I believe the report from that meeting is in your possession. In response to the issues you raised, I would like to highlight the significant contribution made by the Society to Gunnedah, and in particular the achievements made this year in what we all know has been a hugely difficult time for all. Despite the disrupted school year, we've managed to lift our entries to 7,500 nationwide. And this has been a result of concerted effort on social media and a stepped up mainstream media campaign. We were thrilled with this result, despite the adverse conditions, and we hope that this was shared by you. This year, we're staging our first virtual presentation ceremony, which will be sent out on our website across social media at the same time as the usual presentation ceremony early next month. The Society has employed Kent Woodward, and many hours of organisation, filming and scripting is going to this event to ensure it enjoys the same success as our previous presentations, where we host prize winners and their families from all over Australia in Gunnedah, and as well high-profile guest speakers for over the last 20 years. The awards and the presentation ceremony have been a great promotional tool for Gunnedah, and one of which we can be justifiably proud. Our glossy presentation booklet containing winning poems and judges' comments will continue to be produced. Yet another instance of the Gunnedah brand being sent out across the country to all participating students and schools. We promote the work of local craftsmen and artists, prizes for the winners on each section, and this year Bonnie Long has made woomers for each of the prize winners. Our efforts to preserve Kurrumbede have also brought Gunnedah to the forefront. We believe the homestead and outbuilding should be preserved for future generations as an important literary and cultural site. Our campaign has attracted the attention of national media. Our president has spoken on radio, television and print media in our efforts to ensure the former McKellar home is preserved. We discovered there is a groundswell of interest in Kurrumbede, and we feel many inquiries about the property. There are ongoing discussions with Whitehaven about opening the garden and outbuildings to the public through a series of open days in the future. The committee is also hopeful that our nomination of the homestead and surrounds to the State Heritage Register will be determined very soon. You would also be aware the Society was successful in obtaining funding under the Federal Government Grant Communities Program, and that's the drought funding, to embark on a silo mural featuring Dorothea, her writings, and a local historical photo on the side of Brunton's flour mill beside the new rail overpass. We believe this will be a great tourist attraction and a wonderful asset to our town. On top of all of this, we secured funding for a further 5 years from our major sponsor, the Commonwealth Department of Education. All of this work is carried out by a hard-working, dedicated community of 8 volunteers with a part-time project officer. None of this, we realise, would be possible without the sponsorship of the federal government and Gunnedah Shire Council. As regards your concerns about the longevity of the committee and a supposed inability to hold an AGM, we provided documentation to illustrate the case quite to the contrary. The same goes to your query about our opening hours. We've been able to provide records which show that we have more than fulfilled the opening hours agreement under the terms of our lease. I sincerely hope these achievements allow you all to focus on the real and positive milestones the Society has made in the last year, and we hope you will look favourably on our application for renewed funding and our lease agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Now I'll open the floor for elected members. If you had a question you'd like to ask.
So something that's a bit specific that you may not be able to answer at short notice, but what is the cost of actually running the poetry awards themselves? Have you got any rough idea of how much that is?
Yes, well, I do know that this year the cost of employing Kent to oversee this virtual presentation that we're doing is almost what we spend every year on flying people in from all over Australia and hosting them in Gunnedah. So, but I'll leave that to Owen, who has the figures and facts for you.
Well, thanks for the question, Councillor Hawke. The total expenditure in 2018 was just under 78,000 for the conduct of the whole competition and the Dorothy McKellar Memorial Society. We get our major sponsors, the Vice President just enunciated, is the federal government. We received about 55,000 from them, and we've just had them agree to an extension for a further 5 years. We've normally only got 3-year contracts prior to that, and they've agreed for the 3 years to up that from 55 to 60,000 in recognition of the increasing costs that it takes. As we all know, because up until now we haven't had an index each year, so that's to compensate for that. The cost of the presentation ceremony is only one part of it. We have the project officer employed part-time, and nearly 30 hours a week on average for the whole year, to obviously conduct the whole thing. So our administration is about 44,000, and we have a breakdown here. I've got, and the total, as I said, is just under around 80,000. And Gunnedah Shire Fund has just been just under 20,000 of that. So the major sponsor is the Commonwealth. Gunnedah Shire Council is the second major sponsor, and then we have some support from customer mining companies, Whitehaven Coal and the University of Coal have made some funding at times. And of course, previously we had BHP Billiton funded the upgrade of the park area where the monument is. So But virtually all of our funds that we receive each year go towards the conduct of the competition. Our balance is very small, and that's why it's very important that we are able to continue these sponsorships, and as we've been able to do for many years.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Councillor Ivey?
Yeah, through just the supplementary, the 78K figure and round is near enough. That's the total expenditure of DMMS for 2018. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So, and I understand that the awards is actually the major activity.
Yes,
Yes.
and employing the project officer.
Yes, yeah, true.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, if there are no further questions, thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you.
Very good
Thank
to have
you.
representation of the
listening.
organisation. Thank you.
I hope I was clear enough.
You
heard me.
So councillors, we'll now move on to the next item on the agenda, which is mayoral minutes. I would like to bring to your attention the late mayoral minutes. I have put before you a brief note in relation to an event that we would like to hold on Saturday the 22nd of this month in partnership with 100 New England Health, the Gunnedah Shire Council, are looking at holding a day, an open door event at the Town Hall, which will have representatives of most, if not all, if we could possibly get them along, of organisations that provide services around health or counselling or financial support on that day. And that the plan is for that to be between 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. As I said, it's an open, free event for the community. With recent situations and incidences that have happened in the community, as well as the drought that's been on since 2016, COVID-19, there are a lot of people who are feeling quite confused about how to get support they may need, specific support for their particular situation. So in consultation that I've been having with members of 100 New England Health, I put before you this opportunity. I hope for your support. You'll see on the back page what our council's commitments. Briefly, the commitment from council is the town hall facility between those, as I said, hours of 9 to 2 p.m. Council will support by offering tea and coffee facilities, a COVID management plan, and our normal media support as we would through our excellent media team. To put a dollar figure on that, councillors, the hire of the town hall would be a maximum of $70 for that duration. Tea and coffee is estimated around 100 people at $2.50. So the contribution of council would be no more than $320. I see that as a very insignificant amount of money in comparison to the benefits of holding such a event in town in partnership with a very strong partner in 100 New England Health. And councillors, I put that before you. I move such way that we do support it, we do put our energy and efforts behind that event. We do make available those funds, and I now call for a second. Thank you, Councillor Hawke. And now I'll open the floor if there are any questions. Councillor Hawke, as a second of the motion, do you wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Only just to support what you've said, I think it's a fabulous initiative. I think there's quite a lot of confusion in the community about what services are available here, and just as importantly, what services may not be available, which may actually flag some shortfalls that we could actually fill that space later on. So I commend your initiative and report, and hope it's endorsed by the remainder of our councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Hawke. I'll call for one for the last time before I put the motion. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think what you're saying is that it's an information day about where to actually get assistance through various agencies. Is it not likely that this would possibly call for people who actually want assistance on the day at the venue and time? And is that being thought about, that there might be some very people that seek help on the day, and will that be catered for?
So the intent is, because of COVID restrictions, it's a large facility, the town hall is the largest one that we're able to hold this. The intent is that each of the organisations, through 100 New England Health and then of course council, with our knowledge and experience that we approach, would enable one desk, one chair, one person per organisation, and you would, or anybody who turned up from the community, or even visitors if they decided they want to turn up, so long as the numbers that are determined through our COVID management plan, if they're able to enter into the facility, they can sit down, engage, talk to that individual. If there's immediate support needed for that individual, I'm sure that that information will be passed on from the organisation, the particular one, depending on what the particular need would be.
Thank you.
So councillors, in saying that now, I'd like to put that motion on favour.
Aye.
Against? Be that unanimous. We'll move along now, councillors, to item number 9, and that is the General Manager's report. We have one, and that is related to Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference to be held, fingers crossed, in COVID hours on the 22nd to the 24th of November. And I'll hand to the General Manager to detail his recommendation before you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you, councillors, gallery and those listening at home. In addition to what the Mayor said, I've just identified that further dates in the attached documentation, submissions for motions close on the 28th of September, so we will have an opportunity to consider those at our September ordinary meeting, and then voting delegates at the same time. As the Mayor said, the conference is intended for November, so if COVID allows, that would be the intent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Brock. I'll now call for elected member to move the recommendation become a motion. Thank you, Councillor Fuller. Seconded by Councillor Moses. Councillor Fuller, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Mr Mayor, sorry. Mr Mayor, we've always tried to allow everyone to go to the conference. I know that Councillor Luke has indicated she'd like to go. Whether or not we could the Mayor and Councillor Luke, or whether you add another one, is at the call of the committee. But I believe that Councillor Luke hasn't been to one and would like to go, and I think it's a great opportunity for Councillor Luke to learn local government to further her ability with council.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. We have a situation where we have 2 voting delegates. That doesn't mean that we can only have 2 attend. So if it is the desire of the elected members to have more than 2 delegates attend, there is an expense that goes with that, but we certainly could, well, Councillor Fuller, you did move the motion, so if you wanted to amend the motion to have a 3rd, or specifically name up Councillor Luke, you would be able to do so at the approval of your seconder, and you may want to do that, understanding that we do have elections in September as well. So Councillor Luke could very well be the mayor or the deputy mayor. So
Then she just have to go twice.
before I go to you, Councillor Haslett, Councillor Fuller, in light of your comments,
Yeah.
did you want to change your motion?
Well, can we add a 3rd person, please? Thank you. Being Councillor Luke.
Councillor Moses is the second of the motion.
Um,
Are you content
Yeah.
with the 3rd person?
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Haslett.
Well, I think we just resolved what I was about to say. I was going to do that we either, we're only going to fund 2, that we had either Mayor and Councillor Luke. However, should Council decide to fund 3 delegates, the Mayor, the Deputy Mayor, and 1 other council will be funded for the chance that Councillor Luke to be a delegate. Taking on board the fact that, like you just said, that we're talking about positions here, not particular councillors, until that's resolved next meeting. So
Councillor,
I'm happy to support the 3 personally.
Councillor, okay.
I think yourself and the General Manager may just ask the question I was about to ask, do we need to call out who's the voting delegate and who's just attending in the motion?
Through you, Mr Mayor, not at this stage, so we can resolve that at the September meeting, and given, as has been discussed, that we're not sure who the Mayor and Deputy Mayor will be at this stage, I think it's probably best left till the September meeting to nominate those voting delegates.
If I can, Mr Mayor, I have actually sort of obviously talked to some other councillors. I wasn't in a position to be able to attend in previous years. I think I might be able to attend this year. The other thing that we could actually do with this particular determination we don't have to have names until I think the 2nd of November. We could actually defer consideration of this item until the September or October meeting.
Councillor Luke, we have a motion that has a mover and a seconder, so we will deal with the motion as it appears on the screen.
That's fine.
So we've heard from Councillor Fuller. She's spoken to the motion, as you see word on the screen. I'll now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a question. Councillor Moses is the second of the motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
We've had nobody speak against the motion and two for the motion. Councillors, I'm going to put the motion as it reads on the screen before you. All in favour? Against? Clear, that motion carried. Thank you, Mr Groth, for your contribution to our August ordinary meeting of council. We'll now move on to item number 10, and that is the reports from the Acting Director of Corporate and Community Services report. And I'll now call on Mr Muldoon to detail his recommendations before you, starting with item 10.1, which is Transport New South Wales delegations. Thank you, Mr Muldoon.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, through you. This report comes about by changing the Roads Act, which enables the issue of delegation council through the general manager. It's a recommendation to change his delegation to enable it to occur. It's basically in line with the COVID response to COVID, so it gives council the opportunity of shorter public notice than normal. Changes to streets and shared spaces and things such as cycleways and roads. So I put the recommendation for the council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr Muldoon. I'll call on elected member to move the recommendation to become a motion. Thank you, Councillor Luke. Seconded by Councillor Campbell. Councillor Luke, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask the question. Councillor Campbell, as the seconder of the motion, you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Be the case, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Against? That motion carried. Moving right along to item 10.2, which is the amendment to policy of the arts and cultural grants. And I'll hand back to Mr Muldoon to detail that recommendation.
Thank you again, through you, Mr Mayor. When we did the analysis utilising the policy of the application for cultural and arts grants, we decided there was just a need to have a quick review of the policy. So I presented the policy before I put it for council. I just want to, and I apologise, I want to make a couple of minor adjustments to the attached policy. Basically, they're radical. On the second page, so the third page of the policy, under community arts or cultural group, I just want to include that it will read now, must be not-for-profit, community-based, adding arts and cultural organisations located within Gunnedah. So just to include that to be consistent with the rest of the policy. And the other one is just a change in the responsible officer's title, which is currently cultural precinct team leader as opposed to arts and cultural officer. So the subtle changes to the policy basically were in reference to the application process and the fact that funds will not be dispersed until quotations are actually received for the proposed works in the applications. So that in mind, I just put the policy for council's consideration.
Thank you, Mr Muldoon. Call for elected member. Thank you, Councillor Haslett. Seconded by Councillor Luke. Councillor Haslett, you wish to speak to the motion?
Only to the extent to say that these issues were raised this year, and we're considering the grants this year, and I support the recommendations. I would just ask that in future though too, when things are being changed, it's useful to have the items in there with different colour or lined out so we can actually see specifically how the changes have been made. It's easier for some of the sort of visual to understand, so we wouldn't mind doing that when we review policy documents. That would be helpful.
Thank you, Councillor Haslett. I now have an elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a question. Councillor Hall.
Ask the question. On this arts and culture, it will be every 2 years as it's been previously. so that you can only apply every 2 years?
There's nothing like that in there.
No, I know, that's all the other funding is.
Is it?
Well, grants are.
That's correct, but this policy was, I recall, was adopted following the fact that previously all of the funds went to one organisation,
Yes.
so, which was ongoing. So that aspect of the policy continued, and we didn't change it in line with those other ones, because all of these organisations are ongoing usually as well. So it was the continuity concept at the time. We might have changed that later yet, but that was why it was an ongoing payment that we decided not to pay for the one organisation, and pay it for the number one application.
Yes, I mean, Mr. Mayor, there's certainly nothing wrong with council recommending that that's the policy be reformed.
Councillor Luke is the second of the motion. You wish to speak?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would support it being per annum. I think there is something in the documents that I read that said that if previous funds hadn't been fully expended, then they wouldn't be able to apply again. But I do believe that there are some organisations that need the funds on a recurrent basis every year. It is, I think, a bit different from some of the other community grants and sporting grants, etc., that we actually give out. So I'm comfortable with those resolutions and with the updated document policy.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. I'll now call for elected member who'd like to ask a question or speak against the motion. Councillor Haslam, do you want to write a reply? I'm not sure Councillor Fuller spoke against your motion.
I do.
Right. Be the case then.
I've already spoken, though, so I don't think I need to go any further.
Thank you. I'll now put the motion on in favour. Against? Then the motion carried. Moving on to item 10.3, outstanding resolution register, and I'll hand back to Mr. Mulder.
Thank you again to you, Mr. Mayor. You'll note the ascending resolution register is attached. There's been some changes to the formatting of the register to hopefully make it clearer and more easily to read and digest. There's also some traffic lights associated with, which represent either the resolutions are in motion but haven't commenced or they've been completed. So I put that report to council for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Muldoon. Call for an elected member to move the recommendation become a motion. Thank you, Councillor Campbell, and seconded by Councillor Moses. Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd just like to say thank you very much to Mr. Muldoon for the changing the format. It makes it a hell of a lot easier to understand and read.
I'd like to add in Mrs. Markey in relation to that.
Thank you.
Now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a question.
I presume this is going to speed up some of the jobs that we've got.
Thank you, Councillor Hassel. I'll now call on the second to the motion, Councillor Moses. Wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Be the case, I put the motion on in favour. Against? Declare the motion carried. Moving on to item number 11, which is the Director of Planning and Environmental Services reports. And I'll ask Mr. Johns to detail his recommendations, starting with item 11.1, development application number 2020-038. Mr. Johns.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Councillors. This report relates to a DA direction of an outbuilding in Carroll. It's actually a cubby house, so you've got to love the New South Wales planning system. But it is before you because it seeks a couple of variations to development standards contained within the development control plan. The first one being the size and height of outbuildings, construction of structures within the floodway are the two standards. The assessment of that application considers the non-compliances, or rather the numerical non-compliances, is fairly minor in nature. And as such, we recommend that the application be approved subject to conditions included in the report.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Thank you, Councillor Fuller has moved the motion. Do I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Moses. Councillor Fuller, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Do I have an elected member who'd like to speak against the motion? Ask a question. Councillor Moses is the second of the motion. Do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Be the case, I put the motion on in favour. Against? The motion carried. Moving on to item 11.2, allocation of development and planning professional services. And I'll hand back to Mr. Johns to detail the recommendation.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. This report seeks allocation of a touch over $22,000 from the general fund to the planning and development professional services budget to allow us to continue to engage in consultants to assist with the determination of development applications. When we set the budget last year, councillors were unable to find a consultant that was able to give us more time. We had a couple of consultants engaged a day here and a day there, which is all they could offer us. But in the last couple of weeks, we have been approached by a Tamworth-based firm who has done some work for us in the past and has told us they've got more ability to help us to get through some of this tough time with being short-staffed. I am also happy to report that we have a graduate planner starting with us on Monday, which is great news. But obviously being a graduate planner, he's going to take a bit of time to be particularly useful, I guess. The first few months we'll be learning the ropes. So to that end, we are seeking some additional allocations so that we can continue to engage the consultant to get through the days.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Call for it. Thank you. Councillor O'Keefe has moved the motion and it's seconded by Councillor Hook. Councillor O'Keefe, would you like to speak to your motion?
Look, a couple of things. Firstly, I guess, put on the record that I'm interested to know what the hazing process is for a graduate town developer, but maybe we'll discuss that after the meeting. Look, I wanted to say that or just probably add my opinion for the record, that it's disappointing that we had to continue to engage consultants for such a long period, and I know that's not through lack of work or effort by yourself or other members of senior staff, and definitely highlights a concern that we have that we are really in a fight to attract and retain skilled staff to our community, not just as a council organisation, but as the Shire as a whole, and certainly is one of the things that we need to keep working towards as an organisation to make sure that we're actually a first choice place to live and work. And hopefully we can add that to the list of benefits of COVID-19 eventually, that it actually helps us grow our population and grow the right sort of community that we need. The other point I want to make while I'm having a chat too is I guess I would have been happy to approve a larger sum of money, because it does concern me the amount of outstanding development applications that we're trying to get through. And certainly, again, in a time of upheaval and change, when we're trying desperately to stimulate and push our economy on, the fact that it's concerning that we might be seen or be becoming a bit of a roadblock to some of that growth and development and stimulus is really concerning, and something that I support any effort for us to do on hold on.
Thank you, Councillor O'Keefe. I'll now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a further question. Councillor Hook is the second in the motion. Mr. Speaker.
No further comment. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
In the case, I put the motion on favour. Aye. Against, and the motion carried. Moving on to item 11.3, request for allocation funds in relation to court order clean up on 65 Hopedale Avenue. And I'll hand back to Mr. Johns to detail that recommendation.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Through you, as you would have read in the report, councillors, this report seeks an additional allocation of $20,460 in relation to the Hopedale Avenue matter. So that is a matter that is a known sum for us. So we've got a number of quotes to clean that area, clean that property up. The other property that's mentioned in the report specifically is Bloomfield Street. Councillors will know the property I'm referring to, and that's a bit of an estimate we've made there as to what we think that may cost to clean up. Given the scale of the squalor and hoarding issue at that location, there's also 2 lots, not 1 lot, as opposed to the Hopedale Avenue matter. So again, this is the funds we need to be able to go in and clean those 2 sites up. Bear in mind, councillors, we do believe that we have been awarded some costs in relation to the matter, and both property owners, all 3 property owners in these cases, will be required to pay council back for the clean up, but we need to understand that may not happen instantly.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. Elected member. Thank you, Councillor Hasler, and seconded by Councillor Luke. You, Councillor Hasler, do you need to speak to the motion?
No, I think it's a good outcome given the amount of work we've had to undertake to pursue this. My only concern will be how to stop it reoccurring by the same particular individual and other individuals. So I don't know whether this message will get out to people, but certainly I think that it's something overdue
Thank you, Councillor Hazel. Do I have an elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a question? Councillor Luke is the second to the motion. Wish to speak?
I need to congratulate the staff on getting a win and moving through this particularly unpleasant, nasty situation for everyone. So well done.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. In saying that now, I'd like to put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion carried. The next item, I have a declaration of interest, as does Councillor Moses, so we'll be both leading the changes for the debate and determination. Thank you. Councillor Hook, Deputy Mayor, will now take the chair.
Councillors, now refer you to item 11.4, Business Partner Program, round 1, 2021. I hand back to Mr. Johns to outline his recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Deputy Mayor, and through you. Councillors, this report seeks endorsement of the recommendations of the Business Partner Program Advisory Group. They are suggesting that we should allocate $28,250 to 15 local businesses and organisations in round 1 of the Business Partner Program for this year. I will point out, councillors, there were a number of declarations of interest made in that meeting. They were reflected in the minutes of that meeting, but they weren't reflected in the report, so I apologise for that. But there were, as I said, 4 declarations of interest, and those people left the room, took no part in the discussion. So I'll put the report to you for endorsement.
Thank you. Councillor Luke has moved the motion, seconded by Councillor Fuller. Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I wanted to congratulate my little team of volunteers and councillor Wars who are actually on that committee. It is a really tough gig. We had a lot of consideration of these and actually ended up meeting over 2 separate occasions to get through the issues at hand. Plus there was a determination by council in the middle of all of that. So a lot of hard work and deep thinking went in by the group, so I would commend the recommendation to my fellow councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Luke. Does anybody wish to ask a question or speak against the motion?
I only had one, that the director has answered that in terms of conflict of interest issue.
Thank you. Councillor Fuller, it's the second
No,
motion.
thank you, Mr.
Before I put the motion, I'd just like to congratulate you, Councillor Luke, and your team, because it's an onerous task, not an easy one, and there's always someone that misses out, but congratulations on such a fair outcome. Thank you. So, in saying that, I put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Call the motion carried. Can we call back the Mayor and Councillor Moses to the chamber?
You doesn't. You don't. Don't know who it is.
Probably wasn't.
Right. Was it? No, it's fine. That's okay.
Thank you, Ms. Markey. And let the record show, as the record does show, Councillor Moses and myself have rejoined the ordinary meeting. So we'll move on now to item number 11.5, which is the final future 2040 our Gunnedah LSPS, and I'll hand back to Mr. Johns to detail that recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Councillors, it gives me great pleasure to bring you this report, which seeks the endorsement of Future 2040, the Gunnedah Shire Local Strategic Planning Statement. I'm very proud that this council has gone above and beyond in terms of consulting its community in relation to this critical document. We didn't just tick a box, which we could well have done. As you would have read in the draft document, councillors, the LSPS aims to strengthen the Shire's productivity and competitiveness, nurture quality lifestyles and sustain population growth, value, protect and diversify the Shire's primary production, land and natural resources, and promote regional connections to ensure a diverse industry base with a skilled and stable workforce, build effective responses to climate change and natural hazards, and finally to preserve the environment, protect history and the character of the Gunnedah Shine. They're things that I hear in this chamber on regular occasions in different ways, I guess, so it's really great that the final document's reflecting that. I'd like to acknowledge the work of Blake O'Mullane, who's on the Zoom up the back there, and also Deborah Hilton, who are the real workers behind the scene in getting this done. And I will hand over to Blake now, who's got a few additional words to add.
How's the volume going? Everyone can hear me? Great. Look, in my opinion, Council, it appears that the local strategic planning statements across the state have evolved in their short life already from a pure vision statement where we want to go to more of an action list or a to-do list if you want. I think it's also important to note, councillors, that the document before you today is a first pass. So I see this as a living document. In planning terms, the LSPS, it's a bridge between the New England Northwest Regional Plan and Council's local environmental plan. Whilst it's legislated that Council must adopt a statement and that the statements are reviewed every 7 years, it's my recommendation that councils, review the LSPS every time we do a new community strategic plan, since would be going out, engaging with the community comprehensively. And I see a lot of nexus and a lot of similarities that we would gain from the CSP consultation to amend and update our LSPS. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Johns, and also Mr. O'Mullane. Thank you for that. And I've got to say, before I ask for removal of that motion, that's the most sensible things I've heard coming out of planning for some time. And I would say potentially even a huge turnaround for what it might have been some 10 years ago. Music to my ears. Thank you. In saying that now, councillors, I would ask for an elected member to now please move. Thank you, Councillor Hook, and seconded by Councillor Fuller. Councillor Hook, as a move of the motion, let's speak the motion.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, just to add my thoughts behind the process, and we have an extremely good document in the community strategic plan, and that document is now just been, as I said, fleshed out to a degree where we really have a mission statement. We have a roadmap for the future, and I would have to congratulate Blake in suggesting that we come back and revisit that when we do our community strategic plan. But a huge amount of work. Congratulations to all involved. These things don't happen without good brains and a whole lot of effort. So thank you very, very much on behalf of the whole of the community.
Thank you, Councillor Hook. On that call for elected member would like to speak against. Thank you, Councillor Hazzard would like to speak.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the following amendment. That following greater reference and emphasis being placed upon heritage, including known and potential heritage places and the values that contribute to the local character and sense of place, including supporting the heritage listing of the Currumbin Precinct Complex in theme 2, places for people section of the document. Council then proceeds with the rest of the proposed resolution. And if I receive a second, I'm happy to speak to that amendment.
Councillor Haslett, could you please pass your wording to Ms. Markey? We'll have that on the screen before I call for any seconds so we understand exactly the words. Just while Ms. Markey's typing this up, I might ask the Director, understanding that this has been through the process of Council and then out of the community consultation, and this recommendation before us is taking all that into consideration. The potential, the wording of the amendment from Councillor Haslett, do we have any feedback from the planning department?
Through Mr. Mayor, I guess my only comment, Councillor Haslett, is I don't necessarily think this is the vehicle to effect that minute change. I believe this vehicle is to set the overarching high level intent of the council, and a future heritage study or even an amendment to our life environmental plan could affect what you're, it's probably the right view to be affecting what you're proposing. At least that's my only comment.
Thank you, Mr. Jones.
So sorry, I just added that. So the schedule in the local environmental plan lists those items that this community says are important to them. So that's the view that we need to be using to try and make that change.
With your tolerance, councillors, just a few more moments and we'll have the amendment on the screen.
In scene 2, the promised places for people section of the document and then proceed. Councillor.
Thing number 2 or thing 2?
Theme 2. Oh, sorry, yes, number 2. Theme 2.
So councillors, you see we have an amendment before you on the screen. I'll now call for a seconder to that amendment. I'll call one more time for a seconder to the amendment. Third time, if there's no seconder, it will lapse. Thank you. Declare that has lapsed. We'll go back to the original motion that was moved by Councillor Cook. And now I'll call on Councillor Fuller as a seconder to the motion. You wish to speak to the motion.
The only thing I'd like to congratulate everybody involved. I think it's been long overdue, and congratulations to all the staff on the hard work. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fuller. I'll now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion, ask a question. Councillor Luke, your first.
A question, if I could, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering whether the staff would recommend putting a timing on the review of this document, or whether that will actually happen with the various things that happen on our various cycles. Would it be easy to have this document have a date for review, and should we address that now?
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't believe so. We've got a statutory obligation to do it every 7 years.
Yeah.
But our position is that we do it with the term of the council. So it would be as simple as council staff putting a report to council at the same or similar time, or maybe just after the CSP's completed or.
To recommend review?
Yes, yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Hazza, I'll allow your question.
I'm speaking against the motion. Mr. Chairman, I'm sort of a little surprised and disappointed that councillors weren't prepared to have a look at the amendment, because I don't think it was so radical. I'm referring to the, and I had some problems with adopting this document when we only received the totality of the information as part of this business paper. I spent quite a couple of hours going through the 4 or 5 documents that made up this LSPS document. And I went, my particular interest was in the heritage issue, and I looked at what the department had said, and Heritage New South Wales on pages 9 and 10 of the document. And they encouraged, Heritage New South Wales encouraged both council and the DPI to consider how known the potential heritage places and values contribute to the local character and sense of place. It recommends that this have more in the document. Wording to enhance through the LSPS to reflect the importance of heritage protection, character and place for the recommendation. Heritage New South Wales supports the following initiative in the Gunnedah Shire Council LSPS. Now, while these initiatives, I'm quoting, it says, while these initiatives are very positive, there is very little detail in relation to Heritage Council LSPS. And all I'm asking, I was asking by moving the amendment, was to try and get a little bit more of that in there as recommended. I believe greater consideration, as does the Heritage New South Wales, greater consideration to heritage and how it is considered during the planning process. Just broad statements aren't good enough, I don't believe. Greater consideration to both the Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal heritage in the LSPS needs to be undertaken, and including in the Council LEP and DCP. When is the cultural heritage study likely to be undertaken as part of the review of the LEP, referenced in the document? I remind councillors that it refers to the fact that in our council area, we only have one item of state heritage significance listed in our whole shire. Why aren't we supporting the listing of the Currumbin? I remind councillors that today, the IPC, in their recommendations, adopted all of the recommendations of the Department of Planning in relation to Currumbin. It's not radical. So listing it as one of the items that we see as important, I thought was a fairly, would have been adopted fairly easily. On page 24 of the LSPS, it talks about local planning priority 3, the growth tourism. I think growing tourism is important, but as a means of achieving a sense of place by emphasising and highlighting the history and heritage of our community is just as important for our community to have that sense of pride in our history. This should include a reflection of the 40,000 plus years of human habitation, mentioned of course with the Milroy people, and more recently, since the European occupation and settlement for farming and mining in our region over the last couple of centuries. I believe that that needs to be included in other parts of the document as recommended. And that's all I was asking, to see a little bit more of that included as recommended by those bodies. It's not a criticism of the document and for the rest of it, it's a very comprehensive document which has taken a lot of staff work, obviously. But I think the heritage side of it, it was a little bit lacking in specifics, and we needed to add that. So I'm only technically speaking against it on that basis, because I think it lacks that area. Much of the rest of the document is a very fine document.
Councillor Hook, as the member of the motion, would you like a right reply?
I don't think so. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I'm now going to put the motion. We've had 2 speak for and we've had against. I'm now going to put the motion. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Declare the motion carried. Thank you. Moving on to item 11.6, which is planning proposal to amend the Gunnedah Local Environmental Plan 2012. I'll hand back to Mr. Johns to detail that recommendation.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, as councillors would be aware, this report relates to a request from the landowner in Gunnedah to rezone 19 Abbott Street from R3 medium density to B4 mixed use zone, and also to make the requisite changes to the LEP to affect that zoning change. As staff, we support a flexible approach to zoning where possible, and we see these sort of edges of the CBD as a logical place to make such a zoning change. And we really feel that we're hearing from the market, this is what they want in terms of changes to the CBD. So we're happy to support this proposal and put it forward to you.
Thank you, Mr. Johns. I'll call for elected member to move the recommendation become a motion.
Move the motion.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Luke, seconded by Councillor Hook. Councillor Luke, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll now call for elected member. Thank you, Councillor.
Just a question with regard to this one. This is the only block, the only residential, I don't get the right word, property that has been rezoned in that whole block at this stage. Would that be correct? And if so, how do we perceive the implications for other properties in that block? And have we sought input from the neighbours in that area into this proposal.
Through Mr. Mayor, I believe the microphone's working now, so I'll speak through the microphone. You would be correct in that assumption that I'm not aware of any other rezoning in that block since the creation of the 2012 LEP. I might need to refer to Mr. O'Malley down the back. My understanding is we haven't yet had that consultation. The first step is to get through past the council, with the council's supportive of it. There's quite a bit of consultation done with the joining owners and also the community at large. Did you want to add anything to that, Mr. O'Malley?
Yeah, so what I'm just picking up through you, Mr. Mayor, is that this is just seeking resolution for council to go to the Department of Planning for a gateway determination for a planning proposal. And as part of that gateway determination, if the Department of Planning approves it, would then be to go out for consultation. So we would then be doing the consultation if they do determine that they are going to approve a gateway determination of this proposal.
Thank you, Mr. Arline. Thank you, Mr. Johns. Councillor Hook is the second of the motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I call for any further questions or comments. Councillor Luke.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Could I ask the officers whether, if this is a proposal that makes sense with respect to where we're going with the CBD in areas such as this, whether it would make sense to do more than just this one particular property, whether it would then follow on that there should be more that are changed from residential to business to make it easier for the direction that we have been planning for those blocks around the CBD or part of the CBD?
Through Mr. Mayor, thanks for the question. Councillor Luke, it's a good one. So essentially, the impetus for this particular rezoning proposal has come from the owner of the property. So anyone who owns a property can ask the council to rezone it, pay the fee, go through the process. Councils do more housekeeping type LEP reviews on an ad hoc basis. So obviously, one of the next things we'll be doing this year is actually employment land strategy, reviewing our commercial and industrial strategies to look at exactly what you're talking about, looking at what's changed since we did the last one back in 2015 or 16, and working out what changes we need to make. So there is the ability then to look at a more holistic view of it, but essentially this person's asked us to consider it. It meets the current strategy we have, so there's no reason we can't move forward subject to getting through the gateway.
Can I just further state that is this then one particular or it would be useful the determination that the whoever determines this when we put our submission in, and that is being paid for by the property owner, that might well vote for or against changes that we might want to make when there is that review of those other the business areas, etc., that you referred to.
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't believe it would be sort of a negative move in terms of how we see the CBD changing going forward. I don't think it would be, adverse to what we're proposing. I would say that there'll be probably a number of other properties on the fringe that potentially could go that way. I know this particular property, from what I understand reading the planning proposal, is that the property was for rent for a long, long time and there was no interest in it. But there was a lot of commercial people knocking the door saying, we'd love to develop that, and occupy that premises for commercial. So the sort of the market's telling us that's the way to go. I don't believe there'll be any issues going forward.
And I think what I'm saying is if the market's telling us that, let's actually sort of get more money or get further miles for our buck, or that's actually mixed metaphors, isn't it? But if that's what the market's saying, let's actually sort of make sure that we do more than just this, rather than making each individual property owner say, right, well, if they got mixed business density, medium density, mixed B4 mixed use, we'll do it too. So another X thousands of dollars, another cost. Let's actually, if that's the seems to be the flavour of the market, let's go with it and try and make sure that we don't have too many individual cases coming up and doing this to make lot. But what you were saying is that there is actually sort of a review coming up anyway.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor, yeah, that's correct. Essentially, this proponent was told that if they're happy to cool their heels and wait, maybe 12 months, they could affect that change. They want to move forward quicker than that. So I guess they paid the, I want to say the penalty, but they paid the fee and they're jumping through the hoops. They legally can.
Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Now going to put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion carried. Moving on, item 11.7, which is Murray Darling Association's 76th annual conference. I'll hand back to Mr. Johns to detail the recommendation, but before I do, we're calling for nominations for that conference, which is a virtual conference. The motion reads, as you see before the councillors, the council endorses the attendance of Councillor John Campbell, looking for two more names, two nominations at the Murray Darling Association annual virtual events over the period of 14th to 16th of September this year, 2020, and I'll now call for nominations.
Can I nominate Mr. Mayor? Would you like to go?
Thank you. Happy to accept that nomination. Thank you, Councillor Fuller. I'll call for further nominations.
Councillor Hasler?
Councillor Hasler, would you like to accept the nomination?
I'm not quite sure that I'm going to be here. I don't accept it, no one else can make it.
Thank you. I'll now call for any further nominations. Any further nominations? Are there any further nominations?
Councillor Hook was in.
Councillor Hook.
Would you mind going?
Councillor Hook, you would like to go? Councillor Hasler, would you prefer not to go? We have Councillor Hook who has accepted a nomination.
I'm happy for Councillor Hook for a second.
You are? Okay, thank you. So we have now three names, as you see, Councillor Campbell, myself, Councillor Hook. One last call for any further nominations. Thank you, councillors. Now what I'll call for is elected member to move the motion as it appears on the screen. Thank you, Councillor Luke, seconded by Councillor Moses. Councillor Luke, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion. Councillor Moses is the second of the motion. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
To be the case, put the motion on favour. Against? So the motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Johns, for your contribution to our ordinary meeting of council. Item 12, which is the Director of Infrastructure Services reports. There are no reports. Item 13 is the Chief Financial Officer's report. I'll call on Mr. Connor to detail a recommendation in his first item, which is 13.1, fourth quarter project progress report. Thank you, Mr. Connor.
I'm not so lucky to have one going, councillor, so I'll speak about it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, councillors, before you use the fourth quarter, the quarterly project report for the fourth quarter of year 2019-20, which is so happens to be the end of the year report. I also recommend the report as it stands and a related attachment. Welcome any questions council may have either to myself or the relevant director of the area.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. I'll call for elected member to move that recommendation so it becomes the motion. Thank you, Councillor Luke, seconded by Councillor Fuller. Councillor Luke, you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I'll now call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion. I'll ask a question. Councillor Fuller is the second of the motion. You wish to speak?
No, thank you,
To
Mr.
be the
Mayor.
case, then I'm going to put the motion on favour. Against? Declare that motion carried. That report was obviously very thorough, Mr. Connor. No questions whatsoever. Item 13.2, which is investments, and I'll now hand back to Mr. Connor to detail that recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, councillors, before you is the monthly investment report. Simply commend it as stands and welcome any questions councillors may have.
Thank you, Mr. Connor. I now call for elected member to move the recommendation to become a motion. Councillor Luke once again and Councillor Moses as the seconder. Councillor Luke, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I call for elected member who'd like to speak against the motion or ask a question. Councillor Moses, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Just before I put the motion, councillors, I'd like to commend Mr. Connor and his team on their great focus to try and squeeze some sort of interest out of the money that we have invested. We are in a very, very sound fiscal position at the moment, and that certainly doesn't happen by chance. It's by great determination from the organisation to see the outcomes that we see. So congratulations, Mr. Connor, and please pass that on to your team. I'll now put the motion. All in favour? Against? The motion carries. Moving on, item number 14, which is reports for committee. We have the first one, which is item 14.1, one audit committee meeting held on the Wednesday, the 15th of July. Now call for a mover of the recommendation of Interim Director. Thank you, Councillor Campbell, who is our representative on that committee, and seconded by Councillor Fuller. Councillor Campbell, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Right, elected member who'd like to ask a question or speak against the motion. Councillor Fuller, do you wish to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion now. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? Declare the motion carried. Moving on, item 14.2, which is the Planning, Environmental and Development Committee meeting held on the 5th of August. Councillors, I'll now call for a mover of the motion that Planning Committee meeting. The recommendations is that Council notes that all items in the Planning, Environment and Development Committee meeting held on the 5th of August 2020 were dealt with by the committee within its delegated powers. I now call for a thank you. Councillor Fuller has moved that to correct. Councillor Moses has seconded. Councillor Fuller, do you wish
No,
to
thank you,
speak?
Mr Mayor.
Do I have elected member who'd like to speak against the motion? Ask a question. Councillor Moses, as the seconded, do you wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
I'll put the motion now. All in favour?
Aye.
Against? The motion carried. Moving on, item number 15, which is delegates report, and that is relation to the Murray-Darling Association board meeting on the 15th of June. And I'd now like to, councillors, you do have that report with the recommendations that council received in notes delegates report 15th of June of the board meeting of the Murray-Darling Association that has been put forward to council by Councillor Campbell. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Campbell?
No, just to say that if anybody's interested, the meetings, the minutes from the other meetings of the different regions are available through the links on the delegates report, and recommend viewing of them at different times. There are also other links that come in there from the Department of Water, etc., that also make some good reading at different times. Also, just in regard to the conference, those people attending only have to come to this room, they don't have to travel.
Thank you, Councillor Campbell. So you've moved the motion, Councillor Campbell?
Yep.
And we have a seconded by Councillor Hook. We have elected member who'd like to ask a question or speak against the motion. Councillor Hook is a second to the motion. Wish to speak?
No, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Just before I put the motion, councillors, I would like to highlight in the report by Councillor Campbell on page 189 of 220 motion 7.1 to the board that reads in three parts, I believe by Councillor Campbell through Region 11, who he chairs, and that is right to DPI and support Region 11's call to extend the closing date of the regional water strategy. The next part is to, albeit it says C here, I think they mean B, seek clarification on the relationship and purpose of New South Wales water resources plans and seek better consultation overall between DPI and local government, which I believe was carried successfully, and all makes perfect sense. And congratulate Councillor Campbell on putting that forward and getting the support of the board. Councillors, in saying that, now I'd like to put the motion on favour.
Aye.
Against? The motion carried. Next item we have, Council, this is item 16, which is notice of motion. We have one from Councillor Hasler, and that reads, could the Director of Infrastructure Services please explain to Council the source of the considerable water flow in the Ashfords watercourse or South Street watercourse, as the water appears to be have been flowing for many months without being addressed. In saying that, Councillor Hasler, before I go to the Director, would you like to add anything to that motion? Have I got that wrong, correct? The question or notice?
I think that's the case, but I would have a subsequent question, and that being that I presume.
Councillor Hasler, we do have this, which was put forward in advance of the meeting, and first we'll get a response from the Director in relation to the question and notice that has been put forward in the business plan.
I'm looking forward to the response, and I'll be happy to provide another question on notice if you don't want a subsequent one following the corrective infrastructure's response.
Well, to be fair, Councillor Hasler, we should give the Director of Infrastructure Services the opportunity to answer the question on notice that was put forward in the business paper first.
I'm not sure of the detail, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Hasler, for the question, and through you, Mr. Mayor. As was reported to Council on the 17th of June, investigations undertaken today have traced the source back to infiltration into a disused 300mm stormwater line that previously serviced the scour valve at the old outdoor pool. This pipe has been cleaned and CCTV camera inspected. At the end of this stormwater line are two smaller pipes coming in with their junctions and the end of the pipe not completely sealed. The under-pool drainage comprising the trenches filled with aggregate is visible from the camera. This is where the water is entering the stormwater network. Based on the investigations undertaken today, we know the source has a chlorine residual, so is likely connected to council's reticulation at some point. Google Street View images taken in February 2010 show flow in Ashman's watercourse at that time. Accordingly, it's not expected that presentation of this issue has commenced recently. The source continued to run when the pool complex was under construction and when it was emptied in 2019 to complete repairs. The pool was isolated for a period of 2 days, including the indoor pool, and the source continued to run. Other sources are yet to be eliminated with the investigations ongoing. Without undertaking significant excavations to search for where this water is entering the underpool drainage, staff cannot yet attribute the leak to a single point source. It's for this reason that staff are working through ruling out all other possibilities before undertaking this type of work, as it is very invasive. Councillors and members of the community may have noticed spikes in the flows in the watercourse over the last 2 weeks. These spikes came from 3 different sources. The outdoor pool flow valve failed on the 3rd of August. This issue was addressed on the 5th of August. Rainfall events on the 26th, the 27th of July and the 8th of August. And also the draining of the South Street Reservoir to enable the roof replacement works and internal lining works to commence in late August. In relation to the draining of the South Street Reservoir, it's worthwhile noting that its overflow line traverses the pool grounds before discharging into stormwater lines located in the 8th Division, Memorial Avenue. The reservoir was taken offline on the 3rd of August to enable the roof replacement and internal coating works to commence later this month. It's possible this overflow line is the source of the flows, although unlikely. If it is, we will see a gradual reduction in flows over the next few weeks. Replacement of the pool construction joint caulking is being managed under the pool construction contract at no cost to council. There's no evidence to suggest that the hyperlong bandage applied to the pool has failed, so the outdoor pool is also unlikely to be the source of flows. Replacement of the caulking is scheduled to commence in late August and into September, as the advice received from specialists has indicated this time we will provide the most optimum climatic conditions to successfully undertake the work. The 17th of June Council report indicated that a future report will be provided to Council when the matter is finalised. It's the intention of staff to provide this report to Council as soon as possible following positive identification of the source.
Thank you, Mr. Bartlett. Councillor Hasler, that seemed like quite a thorough response in relation to your question on the notice.
Oh, as expected, Mr. Chairman, and I'm quite sure the people who asked me questions will appreciate the fact that I can now respond to them with some degree of knowledge, and I will certainly look forward to receiving the more detailed report, as alluded to by Mr. Bartlett, following the work which was put in the memo to us by his engineer. And as requested in the meeting minutes, that I think were 19.06/20, that a future report be provided to council on the matter is finalised. So I presume that will be in October on the date.
Thank you, Councillor Hasler. So next item on the agenda, councillors, will be enclosed. So I requested from an elected member that we moved into closed committee meeting. Thank you, Councillor Hook. And